In the post-COVID world of business and marketing, there's only one question that matters. What's sizzling? Welcome to What's Sizzlin, the podcast that talks about current business and marketing strategies, regardless of the size of your company or industry. We have new guest stars each episode that talk about their business and reaching their target market in their vertical and what they do to overcome their challenges. I'm your host, Mitch Levinson, founder and thought leader of Creative Sizzle. Also with me is Lauren Pond, our SEO specialist and office manager. Hi, Lauren.
Hey, Mitch. Thanks for having me. Excited. Yeah. You know what today is?
What is today?
Today is episode 15.
Episode 15. That's awesome. We've been doing this only for a short period of time, but 15 episodes is pretty good. We've had a lot of great guests so far.
We definitely have had some great guests. The one we had earlier today, Louis Sharp, he was amazing.
Yeah, he was amazing. And the event coordinator, Sheena Lynn Gale, was good. And obviously some of the not-for-profits that we've had on here have been great. It's been really fun talking with you and with some of the other guests about the show. And I'm really excited about today's guest star.
I am too.
Our guest today is Lynn Gale with Gale Force Health. I'm really excited about having Lynn on the show today, to talk about health and wellness. And so Lauren, for our listeners out there today, tell me what your first experience and impression was when you first met Lynn.
When I first met Lynn, she just comes across as just a very positive person, very self-confident. And then when she starts talking about her health and wellness coaching, you could see her passion while she's talking about it. And I'm really excited to hear more about it and deep dive a little bit more with her.
I didn't realize that the program that she talks about and that she works with, and, you're very into health and wellness. And,
yes.
Obviously with your Young Living Oils and some other things, you're very into health and wellness. And the program, the lifestyle that you have just started with is the same tactics and techniques that Lynn is using. It was actually kind of interesting, listening to the two of you talk. Typically, I'm a significant participant in a conversation, but it was fun just listening to the two of you talk.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's definitely been a lifestyle change.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that a little bit with Lauren. So for all the listeners out there that are interested or looking at lifestyle change, they want to be healthier than they have been. They've been sitting at home for the last year and a half, with COVID and the refrigerator, and really trying to figure out where they want to be, what they want to do, how they want to live. And they know they need a little bit of a change. They've put their mind to it and they're ready for it. Today is an episode for you for sure, because it's very inspiring listening to some of the stories that Lynn talks about and, how she started with the industry and the business and some of the things that she helps people overcome.
Yeah, I'm ready.
So when we get back from the break, we're going to be back with Lynn Gale with Gale Force Health, and stay tuned. Jurstead Builders has been building high-quality homes for more than 35 years. Jurstead Builders can create your dream home in one of their beautiful communities. Whether you're looking in McHenry, Poplar Grove, or Richmond, Illinois, or in Williams Bay, Wisconsin, Jurstead Builders will be able to build exactly what you need. Visit jurstedbuilders.com to explore their communities and view all of their available home models. Make your dream home a reality with Jurstead Builders. Visit jurstead.com to schedule an appointment today.
This episode of Creative Sizzle is brought to you by the gym. Instead of building up your muscle, we want to help you build up your brand. Come to us for the best and latest in marketing innovations. And now, back to What's Sizzlin' podcast.
Welcome back to What's Sizzlin'. Today, again, we have Lynn Gale with Gale Force Health. Lynn, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Mitch. It's great to be here.
So I'm really excited to have you. When we first started talking, you had shared with me that you lost 35 pounds in 14 weeks, and you did it through the program that you now coach with. And not only just the program, but a few other things as well. And that's what you've added to your coaching program. But it's not only the weight loss, but it's the change in lifestyle. It's sleep and it's food and it's decisions. And tell me how you lost 35 pounds in 14 weeks.
Yeah, Mitch, I'd love to. Now that if someone were to tell me that 4 years ago, I'd be like, how the heck is that going to happen? I could really lose 4 pounds in 4 months. A lot of it has to do with, do our habits drive us? And the answer is yes. So our subconscious takes over for most of the things that we do in our life because we cannot physically, mentally monitor every decision and action that we take in any particular day. So we get into these habit loops. So the decision really is what habit loop are you on? I was on a habit loop of disease, and now I'm over on the habit loop of healthy choices. So it really came down to me was this program that I now coach. I didn't coach it until my weight loss was actually complete, because I saw what I had created was a new me, a person who took her trajectory in a completely different direction. Now, I have been a yo-yo dieter in the past. I am a recovering sugar addict. I still have trouble with carbohydrates, but I've also learned why carbs are important to brain function. I also know what is a good carb versus a bad carb. I now coach this program, but the day I decided to coach the program that helped me lose that 35 pounds in 14 weeks, I knew none of this. It wasn't until I put the education and the time and the mindset into play that I really made a fundamental change.
I think what's important about what you're talking about is it's a mindset, right? So, you talk about, your current weight really isn't your fault. And, a lot of that is, people don't really understand a lot of what goes into nutrition and the decisions they make. And from the food industry standpoint, the manufacturers of food, they've changed their formula so much that not all food is actually food anymore. I'm not sure there's dairy in some of the cheeses that are out there on the market. It's all artificial, and a lot of that artificial, food isn't really great for you as it would be if it was natural. You make the statement a lot, and I've heard it a couple of times, and I'm going to make it here for you. But you say your current weight isn't really your fault. Talk a little bit, or tell me what that really means, because clearly I make decisions when I put sugar and candy and carbs and things into my mouth and I eat them. And I'm definitely heavy, and I should do a better job of that in the decisions I make with eating. But tell me why my weight really isn't my fault.
Well, it really comes down to the fact that we as adults, let's say between 30 and 60, we are making very habitual food choices based on what we ate as a kid. So for example, I love Mott's applesauce. I grew up with Mott's applesauce. It's a trusted brand. However, a few weeks into the pandemic, I didn't know whether or not I'd have to be hoarding food. So I bought a gigantic thing of Mott's applesauce, thinking that might be my only, fruit source for a while. And I was eating and I'm like, darn, this is so good. And I flip over to read the back of the label. Ingredient number 2 is high fructose corn syrup. High fructose corn syrup should, in my opinion, should never have been approved by the FDA because it's addictive and it causes obesity. It is in so many ingredients beyond soda. It's a crime. It's in Campbell's tomato soup, which is also a trusted childhood brand. It's also in pears. I love canned pears in light syrup. My local grocery store only sells the heavy thick syrup, which ingredient number 2, high fructose corn syrup. I am a recovering sugar addict because I have been absolutely addicted to that sugar source. It's cheap. And in the United States of America, God love us, we are a for-profit country. And when you start looking at food sources, it all comes down to what is going to give the food industry the greatest profit for their stakeholders. So this is where food has changed in our lifetime. So you really need to be aware of what is in your food source, including fruits and vegetables, which may look like a strawberry, but is it really a strawberry?
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I've been a habitual dieter and trying to lose weight all the time. And I exercise and work out and do a lot of things that are active. I mean, I'm on the basketball court, the baseball fields, and very active, yet 80% of my weight is intake and not output. So it's the decisions I make about the things that I eat. I definitely don't always make good decisions. And my body type, honestly, I have always been in that above average category in terms of weight, because my build, my body style, I'm never getting to be below average on that scale. But Lauren, so you just started a little bit ago on the program that Lynn talks about and coaches, and you love it so far, right?
I do. I love it. I don't look at it as a diet. I look at it as just a lifestyle change. It's been very educational to see what I'm actually eating, because I have to think about what I'm eating.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of person that likes to plan. So I have a little notebook where I put down what I'm supposed to be eating every day and then what I actually am eating. And I weigh everything. And you become very conscious of what you're doing and what you are actually eating and things you never even thought about. I've been eating different vegetables I never thought I'd ever eat. So it's been great.
I hate vegetables and I've never loved them more than in the last 3 years that I've actually gone through this program. It's diabolical.
I agree. Hearts a pound. I don't like them. Get them in the noodles. Eat them as like a spaghetti. They're great.
It's interesting, but again, it's a mindset. Lauren, you hit the nail on the head. I never thought about what I really ate. If I just had this one little bite of this thing, it doesn't really make a difference to me for my weight. It's just one bite. But as soon as you start writing down everything that you eat, everything that you put in your mouth, it all makes a difference. It's a numbers game for analytic people. You can add up the calories, the carbs, the grams of sugar, subtracting the fiber from the carbs and doing whatever you need to do to make sense. I think it's important once you have that mindset. And it's the same that we talk about with pretty much all of our guests, Lauren. It's kind of funny. We talked about that earlier with Louis, that you already referenced him in his program, but the mindset of people needing and wanting to be ready to take that next step. It's the sugar addict, Lynn, that I got to be ready to conquer my addiction to sugar. I have to be ready to conquer my addiction to alcohol, or I have to be ready to listen to smart people and take their advice as it relates to marketing. In order to do that, you have to get away from the mindset of, I've always done it this way. I've always eaten this way. I grew up eating this way. And, Lynn, like you pointed out, the food that we're eating today is different than the same food we ate when we were kids. And that food has gone through a lot of new processes and FDA approvals and all of those other things where, a lot of the food that you ate back then, or that I ate back then, was actually healthier, even though it might have been exactly the same thing.
And Mitch, I want to clarify something too, real quick, from your point of view. You talk about your build and your mindset. And this is something that Lauren and I talked about, was when you come to that decision in your life, you're either inspired or you're desperate. So inspiration or desperation. Lauren and I both came to this program under desperation. I was walking at 51 into a certain heart attack, and call it the hand of God. Somebody pointed me in the right direction and I found what I needed. Lauren concurred too, that it was desperation. The message I really want to put out to everybody is lead from the future and act in the now. If you're not in inspiration or desperation, all I can say is I watched my mother-in-law stay in assisted living and or nursing home for 15 years. Her last year in prison because she was not allowed to see her loved ones. Thank God she was in a nursing home that was on the first floor. The thing that really touched my heart when I saw and looked at her last 15 years life was, if I want to avoid the nursing home, what am I willing to do today? So if I want to be that person that's active to my 83rd birthday, whatever it is, then what am I doing today to ensure that? Nothing is given. We can't fight our DNA, but I'm sure as hell not going to feed it. So if I have cancer or heart disease in my DNA family tree, what am I willing to do today to make sure that I can live a great life up into our last day? Because nobody's getting off this planet alive. We all have an expiration date, but what is going to happen to our quality of life? And what's going to happen if we need those type of services? And who knows what's going to happen later on 30 years from now in our managed care system. I don't want to be a burden and live in my kid's basement. I'd rather my kid live in my basement. So I am leading from the future and I am acting in the now based on the decision tree. But Mitch, I also wanted you to comment on how you had mentioned that, am I ready to face my sugar addiction, my carb addiction, alcohol addiction, whatever it is? Mm-hmm. I want you to know, and Lauren can probably comment on this, it really takes 7 days. The first 4 days of our program, yeah, they're a little rough. And that's why we have a coach. By day 7, we are beyond that. And all we can see, and Lauren's nodding, all we can see is how great we feel, and our mission and our goal is now even more established. So for your listeners, don't think that it's ultra hard to make this switch. It's really pulling off the Band-Aid and making it happen.
You're exactly right. Every journey starts with a single step. And as long as you focus on what can I do right now? I know I want to get there, right? The old saying, and I guess it's a more appropriate here, we're talking about food. How do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time, right? So how do I go along this path? Well, I first make that first phone call to Lynn because I want to set up all that coaching. And then secondly, I'm going to take one step at a time, one day at a time, one meal at a time, 1 hour at a time. What do I need to do It's like AA, they have one day at a time, how do I take that first step to get there? And, Lynn, it's not just eating. There's other lifestyle things and events that you do and have to work with that make you a healthier person. We talked about earlier before we started recording why sleep is so important. Can you talk a little bit about how sleep affects lifestyle or weight or decision-making and stuff like that?
I would love to. So sleep is not a luxury. If you think back to humankind starting tens of thousands of years ago, our bodies followed a circadian rhythm based on sunlight. You slept when it was dark and you worked while you were awake. So why on earth does this generation living in the time today, why are we suffering so much? Well, because we have unnatural lights. We now have Netflix. We now have blue light known as our phones that we are all addicted to. And in the end, we're going upstream on our natural body's rhythm. So when we stay up and watch yet another episode of Bridgerton or whatever on Netflix, we will actually bargain with ourselves because we're giving ourselves enjoyment at a cost for something. So we have to set hard limits on these things. And we call it bright line curfews. Now, that's a word I never had heard before I started to get into this program, but it's really about an hour before you being physically asleep. What on earth do you need to be doing? You need to making your room dark, your room comfortable. You need to start closing down things, turning the lights off, doing your security checks, putting the food away. Make sure all those lunches are done. Make sure everybody's organized. Because let's say I need to be sound asleep by 10 p.m. That means at 9 p.m., you start that routine. We don't start it at 10, we start it at 9. And we live in a really crazy time where we're putting so much pressure on our brain that we find ourselves slipping back and saying, but I'm enjoying this episode. And they make it so easy for it to continue. You have 7 seconds to bail and they're hoping you don't. So not to pick on Netflix or anything like that. It happens when you read a book too. I've read a couple page turners that I'm begging myself to go to sleep, but I can't stop. But you have to put in these curfews so that way you can give your body time to rest. We need 7 to 8 hours of sleep solid in order to refresh ourselves. So if you think of yourself as a cell phone, think of yourself, I need 5 bars and I need 100% power. What are you doing to achieve that every day?
Yeah. And it's interesting the way that the world has changed and is changing. And with the evolution of technology and the internet and all these other things, it's created this 24/7, 365 mentality. And it doesn't allow for downtime. And people have a hard time creating a work-life balance because I can work from home. So I'm always working because I'm working from home. Even if I take a few minutes away from work and watch something on TV or go for a walk, which is great. But even if you're doing that, you're still putting in more hours at work and putting in more hours of screen time and less hours out there in the world, in nature, doing something physical or athletic or allowing your mind to wander in a way that's healthy for your mind to do. It's a lot different. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't every once in a while get caught up in Netflix or read a good book, but Lynn, you're absolutely right. If you can find a way to harness the energy that you need and be able to turn it off so your mind can be creative and explore on its own while it's in a dark space or white noise or just relaxing. And if you can do that right before you're supposed to go to bed, it'll make it a lot easier to not only go to sleep, but stay asleep and get the required sleep your body needs. We in the United States, we do a lot of things differently than the rest of the world. And this is one of those things that we do differently. I'm certainly guilty of it also. And the internet's on 24/7. So if we got a website that goes down, I got to be working at that time. That's an emergency. But that's really, the outlier. That's really not the norm. The norm is we're all able to create our own schedules. We're all able to work hard and be passionate about our careers, but we're also able to be passionate about our lives and our health. And that's what we really need to be passionate about. So as we begin to wrap up, Lynn, if someone is out there and we've inspired them today to make that phone call, to take that step, and how do they contact you?
So what I'm really looking for, Mitch, and thank you for asking, is I'm looking for people who are ready to make a change. I know there's a lot of people that let that go back and forth, but if you're not ready, and no program will help you, you really have to be looking for what we offer. But regardless of any of that, I always love to hear people's story and what their goals are. I am a believer of intentionality. And if you are intentional about something and at least have a conversation about it, you're putting into motion change, whether you recognize that or not. So I had someone talk to me about this program about 7 months before I even started, but that seed was planted and somebody fertilized that, and call it intentionality or not, but I certainly manifested this in my life. So the way to get a hold of me is by the number 224-301-5606. Again, it's 224-301-5606. If you want to see what I'm all about, come find me on Facebook. My name is Lynn, Lynn. My maiden name, which I do carry on my Facebook page, is Idstein, Idstein. Last name Gale, Gale. So Lynn Idstein Gale. Come find me, and you'll see a lot of success stories of our clients going through this program. And what you will notice is that it's never just the before and after. It's the before, it's the during, and then maybe it's the after. Everybody's proud of their journey, and we just want to cheer people on because the diet industry is not really for us. A lifestyle change is really what we're aiming for.
Yeah. And you're exactly right. It's one step at a time. It's a lifestyle. It's a journey. It's not a diet. Diets don't last. At some point they end. And what you're looking for is someone who's really ready to make a decision to move forward
Right.
with just being healthier and enjoying life and getting the most out of life.
Right.
So appreciate your time, Lynn,
Thank
today.
you.
And it was great. Lauren, any final thoughts as we wrap up before we go to our break?
No, a lot of what Lynn was saying really resonates with me when Lynn talked about the first 7 days. Give it those first 7 days. Yes, that was hard. The first 3, I was a Diet Coke drinker, and Mitch can attest for this. I've worked with him for 11 years. I would drink 3 to 4 cans of Diet Coke just while I was working. I have not had a Diet Coke. I can't remember the last time. So it's these little changes. And when you start making those changes, you will start to feel better and you'll start to want to continue making changes. So I think everything Lynn said is just spot on.
Great. So we're going to go to another break. And when we get back, we're going to talk a little bit about the offer that Lynn has for everyone. So stay tuned. Are you safe and protected? Don't wait for tomorrow. Visit firearmmentor.com or call Marcus Melnick at 224-588-2489 to take your concealed carry class for your weapon. Firearmmentor.com is the place to go to learn all about firearm safety and education. Again, don't wait until tomorrow before it's too late. Visit firearmmentor.com. Are you looking for ways to increase your brand exposure and get your message out? Podcasting is a great way to share your story and generate new and qualified leads. Here at What's Sizzlin Podcast, we want to encourage you to join us as a guest on our show. We love talking to new people and learning about the ways you are marketing your business and getting exposure. If you're ready to make your podcasting debut with us, visit our website at creativesizzle.com/What's Sizzlin or give us a call. Welcome back to the What's Sizzlin podcast, the podcast that talks about businesses and marketing, and today making people better, healthy choices, healthy lifestyle. And Lauren, what did you think about that episode?
I think that everything Lynn talked about it really resonated with me and made me do a lot of thinking. I'm on the same program that she is on, but it just made me solidified that I made the right decision.
One of the things that I thought was even more important than the program itself when I talked to Lynn was, how much she cares and how she's trying to help people change their lifestyle and their thought process, as it relates to being healthy. And, we didn't talk about portion control and things like that, but we did absolutely talk about addiction to sugar and carbs and other things. We talked a little bit about lack of sleep and exposure to blue light and media and things like that. And really, kind of the steps you need to go through to be healthy, not only from a food intake and eating standpoint, but getting a good night's sleep and being realistic and reasonable as it relates to computer time and things like that. So I really did enjoy that. It's kind of a big picture. And that's why you need a coach like Lynn, because, just going on a diet or deciding that you're going to change the way you eat, that's one thing. But having someone there for you day to day to give them a call when you need support or when you have a question about something specific or particular, having someone there, I think, is important.
I agree. I reach out to my coach a lot when I need support, or if I'm going to go reach for something I shouldn't be eating. I kind of text her and say, I know I'm not making the right choice here. I need a little bit of willpower. Always, then she picks up the phone and calls me. She's like, let's talk through this.
Yeah.
It's very powerful to have somebody in your corner that understands what you're going through.
Yeah, definitely.
Not everybody does.
Not everyone does, for sure. There are a lot of people out there that, they can eat whatever they want. They can do as little exercise they want, and they're skinny. That is not me.
I used to be like that till after children. And
that is just not me.
Downhill.
Yeah. But it's, I think it's interesting. It's not only someone to be there, but it's inspirational that, you have someone there. And just so our listeners know, it never costs anything to talk to Lynn, in the beginning. So if you just want to reach out to her and ask her a few questions to begin with and set up an initial consultation or talk to her about lifestyle or things like that, it doesn't cost anything. She's pretty much always available. Like I said, or like she said, just give her a call, 224-301-5606, or do a Facebook search for her on Facebook. And she's awesome to talk to. And I hope you all enjoyed today's episode, and I hope you all take at least one step towards a healthier lifestyle. And with that, thank you for joining us for another episode of What's Sizzlin'. Each week, we talk about what's new in business and marketing, where together with our special guest star, we share our thoughts on specific tactics and stories that will help you in your business and personal life. Make sure to tune in every Monday to learn what's sizzling in marketing, and head over to iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It really does help out the show. If you'd like more information about today's guest, or becoming a guest yourself, or you need support with marketing, go to creativesizzle.com/whatssizzlin'. Thanks again. I'm Mitch Levinson.
I'm Lauren Pond.
And we'll see you next time.